Between the two Jeffreys, who do you side with? Are you on the blue Jeffrey team who says emotions are a necessity, that we need to feel our emotions and sit within them to be able to cry and experience sadness and all these things so that I can actually maintain my humanity? Or are you on the opposite aisle and you side with red Jeffrey who says emotions are a weakness, that they're actually limiting your potential, preventing you from taking action in your life? I personally was sided with red Jeffrey for a long period, but it actually doesn't matter who you side with because both are avoiding a deeper truth, a truth that they do not want to confront. As Carl Jung has said, man will do almost anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their souls. So let's get into it, starting with the alpha. Oh, yeah. So these are, I love the term. I just find it so funny, especially if you look at those online that label themselves as alphas. We got to admit that there is nothing cringer than seeing that. It is a beautiful, especially me as someone who has trained in combat sports for over a decade. I've seen so many dudes come and go, and the ones that acted this way were the first to quit. It's really funny. And then we have the hippies. No offense, I don't mean that in a negative way. To me, the hippie was the archetype of someone who'd be like one love and we all should be family. And that's why I use the term hippie. So the alpha archetype typically sits within a framework that entails more head heavy. I made a video about the trinity of masculine where I break down these three functions within human beings, but angled more towards men. It'll give you a lot more insight. So I'll leave the link for the video actually down below my description, and then you can open the tab, save it, watch it before or watch it after. The head heavy means that they see the world through strictly just what's rational, what makes sense, what are the steps I need to take to make something work, what are the preparations I have to do, strategy. It's a lot more mechanical and technical. They're also very ritual based. Discipline is absolutely important. So they need to have a system where they wake up, they either go to the gym or they work from, 3 o'clock all the way down to 1 in the morning, and they like to repeat that. The cadence provides them a soothing element. They're also very status driven. Now, the status can also mean, it can be money, women, material things. They all kind of clump together, but that is one of the main driving factors. It's important to present yourself as large, literally and metaphorically. And the alpha will always, pretty much generally always, point to the opposite aisle and consider them weak. That the fact that they express a level of emotion, vulnerability, deems them unable to actually hold themselves. They're not able to contend with the challenges of life, so they have to just blubber all day long. Again, I'm probably straw-manning some of this, but we're having a good time. Now, if we cross the aisle, we look at the hippie is more heart-heavy. They see life more through the emotional lens, compassion, empathy, love, forgiveness. I don't know if that's forgiving individuals. They are also open concept, meaning they don't really routine themselves the way the alpha would. They like to keep things more open book because they are more of the creative types, and they feel that if they, put themselves too much into a system, then it sort of washes away that creativity and it stifles them. They're also a lot more connection driven. What that means is the outcome or success or result generally will come secondary to the connection with people, making people feel loved and welcomed, the whole inclusive vibe. And they will look at the other aisle and say, you're callous, heartless, cold. You're just someone who seeks to dominate other people. And you know what? They are both right. There is truth to what they're saying. And the reason why there's truth to what they're saying, because here's where they converge. Each one to the other is the shadow. The shadow is the part of us that we suppress, deny, reject, or disown because it is not something we want to contend with. We don't want to deal with it. And so as we stuff it away, I call it shadow dumping, where if someone exhibits the part that we reject, we see them as vile, something to detest, we get angry at it, whatever your reaction. Either way, they are just presenting that deeper part of you that you are not ready to look at, especially when they are of extreme polar opposite. That adds a lot more gravity to it. Both are also a fear response. Now, that might be hard to believe, especially when you're looking at it from the alpha perspective, but just don't let the veil, this hyper-masculine performance, seduce you or give you the impression that there are these absolute just impenetrable walls. The way these two, if we look at it from a symbolic, perspective, the alpha side is a fortress. They build within themselves high walls so that not only can no one else get into, and what are they getting into? Well, the deeper traumas that they deal with. And so what they do is they build a wall that no one can get in, but also that they can't get in. The other aisle is more of a chaotic element. They sort of want things to be disorderly in a way. Nothing really, and they're open book. They're totally open, allowing people to ask anything. They will reveal themselves. They might even actually interject and throw in their own pains and their own challenges, perhaps as a way to garner connection with other people. It could be a way to garner empathy and sympathy, to maintain the victim frame. And the ultimate question is where we're getting even deeper now. What does this really do? What is this serving them? And what is it that they are actually afraid of? The alpha is fundamentally afraid to feel. They are afraid of their own emotions. They are afraid to let down the guard and allow themselves to go through a healing process that can look like crying, that can look like being in a vulnerable physical position, which is why they always have to maintain this very strong, tall posture. They are simply just afraid to engage. And so the way they can stave off that confrontation is by building a massive barrier with wealth, with physical appearance, with rhetoric, and all these things that can convince a lot of people and themselves that they have everything under control. But really, these types are missing the bigger growth that they can have if they were able to access these parts, instead of just staying only in the realm of anger and frustration, which is the main fuel source. And what they are fundamentally also avoiding is their past. They're afraid to engage with the past. We move over to the hippies now. The hippies are afraid of structure. What does structure really mean? To somebody who likes to keep things very open, to maintain their potential, what that means is they're afraid of focus. They're afraid of picking one thing and committing to it for a long period of time. And discipline to them is a threat. Why? Because discipline requires emotional regulation. Discipline requires that you wake up in the morning and then you can't just say, well, I don't feel like doing, I'm just going to skip. Not to say you can't have moments like that, but to them, the ability to wake up and absolutely do the same thing to move something forward is just not really going to happen. They feel restricted. They rather keep themselves open so that they do not consolidate their power and they can maintain themselves in a potential state. Now, of course, that's uncomfortable for them. So then eventually they utilize this open book philosophy as a way to what? What's the barrier? Well, they will victim themselves. They'll present themselves as helpless, confused, trying their best to garner sympathy from others who are also heart-heavy, which is why that's the circle they stay in. And this, of course, does what? It convinces himself that why he can't be disciplined or why he can't do X, Y, and Z. And there's all these limitations and all these things in his past. And what they are fundamentally afraid of as well, similar to how the alpha is afraid of the past, they are afraid of the future. Now, what is the alternative view that I'm proposing here that pretty much mixes both of them? The alternative will comprise three main things. The first one is seeing emotions as signals. We often overlap emotions with our sense of self. So if you are feeling sad, people think, I'm sad. I'm a sad person. Which is why the alpha, when they feel emotion, they don't want to feel those vulnerable aspects because then they attribute it to themselves. But emotions are nothing but signals. There are ways that you can experience the world. There are ways you can connect with loved ones. There are ways that you can set boundaries. So that's one of them. It also reveals a gap in your growth along the way towards self-development and actualization and finding that space of kingship that I talk about. It's going to reveal to you the spaces that you're missing. So along your way, as you're growing and learning and developing a skill and mastering something, achieving excellence, these signals come in saying, hey, listen, I like where we're going, but there's a part of you that I need you to address. I need you to address the story of your father and how his abuse affects you to this day and makes you avoid things and how it's getting in the way of your decision making. You are not fully living. You are still hiding. You're still running. And so that's what these come in to alert you with. They also are a test of clarity because when these signals come in and you ignore it, you have to distort, you have to reject, you have to deny, which muddies up your view. And if you're someone who is oriented towards something, you want to make sure that path is clear at least, or rather, it'll be clear as you move more towards it. But if these internal forces, these complexes are not dealt with, and they just will jump right in, and they will affect how you think, see, interpret the world around you. You have to stop ruminating. For those that feel emotion, you can't sit within that emotion because then you will start to crave it and you will like it and there's comfort in it. Instead, you want to approach this more as address it and then move forward. Find the pattern behind why. If you are often coming up with, let's say, negative self-talk, low vibration, the more heavier energy, melancholy, sadness, depression, you have to ask yourself, what is activating this emotion? Where is this coming from? It's not random. And even if you know what is going on, either find a support network, which is why I help men in this field, because sometimes you need someone who's going to hold you accountable and has been through this process multiple times. But you can have groups too. You can have individuals that hang out together and go over these things. But fundamentally, what I'm trying to say is when you have a moment where the signal comes in, it is alerting you. You have to address it. But then once you address it and you notice the pattern, you want to begin to move forward. And moving forward is by massaging out the emotion. It takes courage to feel, but it also takes strength to regulate yourself. And to clarify what massaging out the emotion means, whenever let's say a feeling of disgust comes in, and that emotion is a very visceral experience, you do not want it, and you do everything in your power to avoid it, to change your opinion of it, or to dump it onto somebody else, project it onto your neighbor. Massaging it out means you sit with that emotion. You don't escalate it, so you don't ruminate, but you do not suppress. You allow it to play. Allow the thoughts to go, but you do not interact with them. You do not grab a hold of them. You sit in that center, in that quiet place. As you sit in it long enough, that emotion will pass through. It always passes through. And all you're really doing is gaining evidence. What's the evidence? The evidence is that you are stronger than you think in both regards, in both the alpha, right? In both the alpha and the hippie. Because the alpha needs to sit in the emotion that he is afraid to contend with. And the hippie needs to contend with dealing with the emotion and then moving forward to actually grow and not be stuck in this repeated cycle. They both take the exact same thing. And as you continue, you're going to also notice that these emotions will pass quicker. And you will build resilience, because a common misconception is if someone allows themselves to feel emotions, does that mean that it'll just get easier and easier to feel that emotion? Therefore, it's just you're practicing a muscle for weakness? Yes, if that is your game. If your game is to feel the emotions so that you can settle into sadness, and it's a form of control at least, and you can almost feel good about yourself that you see things as a victim frame, then that is a problem, absolutely. Then that muscle will get easier and easier. You'll be very easy to probe, and people can lure you into their frame much better. You're open to manipulation on both sides, by the way. They're not, they both deal with the exact same things. But if the signal comes in, you address it, you look at it, you find the pattern, you regulate yourself while that is passing through you, then what's actually happening is you're building your spiritual muscle. Your ability to tolerate gets stronger and stronger. It's just like anything else, like you're lifting weights. You start with 5 pounds, you push it, maybe it's heavy, and then eventually it becomes lighter. And so you're pushing 10, then that becomes lighter, you're pushing 20. That is the exact same thing. You can tolerate more and more and more. And your ability to understand yourself and how you need to deal with it will get better. And for way more clarity, by the way, just download my free guide down below. It'll go more into detail about how to actually enter into your inner world from more of a stoic but not callous place. You are open to feeling emotion, but you're still standing in strength. I call the hero stance. And so I break that all down in that free guide. It'll really help you a lot. The soul dictates where you go. Your heart maintains your humanity. And your head places things into action. They are all interconnected. And kingship is achieved through the balance of the three. That doesn't mean one will not get stronger than the other at times, where some areas of your life or seasons will require more logic. Some will require more irrational empathy. Some will require more spiritual exercise. They will have those variations. But you are fundamentally growing your skill and mastering the art of having all three chained together. Because the soul and the heart and the mind, when they're all working together as a company, if you think of it that way, as an organized company, an organized military group, then you are turning yourself into an absolute laser beam where you can create big things and they can have meaning. Instead of building big things, but they have no meaning to you whatsoever other than just material things, or not building anything at all and just retreating back into that comfort zone. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on the next video.